Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're going on a journey through time. Not just thousands of years, but hundreds of thousands. Into Earth's hidden past. We're going to explore something that ancient civilizations whispered about in their myths. Something modern science is only beginning to understand. The cycle of cataclysms, Earth's forgotten clock. Every 12,000 to 13,000 years, something extraordinary happens to our planet. Ice ages come and go, civilizations rise and fall, magnetic poles flip, and the Earth resets itself. Tonight, you'll discover why the Younger Dryas event, 12,800 years ago, remains one of history's greatest mysteries. How Milankovitch cycles control our climate like cosmic clockwork, and what the evidence hidden in ice cores, ocean sediments, and ancient ruins tells us about the next cycle. We'll visit lost civilizations that may have witnessed these cataclysms, explore the science behind Earth's magnetic reversals, and ask the question that keeps researchers awake at night. Are we living in the calm before the next storm? But don't worry, this isn't a story of fear. It's a story of resilience, of rhythm, of the elegant balance our planet has danced to for billions of years. And by the end, you'll drift off knowing that Earth has survived countless cycles and will continue long after we're gone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy this kind of storytelling. Your support helps me create more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries, and I truly appreciate every one of you who chooses to join this journey. Now, settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's travel back to when the world was young and the cycle was just beginning. They say that water never forgets. It carries memory of the rain that fell 1,000 years ago, of rivers that once flowed where deserts now lie, of the tears of cities long drowned beneath the sea. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine listening to that memory, a whisper that comes not from the surface, but from the deep. In the beginning, long before the pyramids, before the temples of Sumer or the palaces of Atlantis, humanity had already learned to fear the sky, because from time to time, the heavens fell. Every ancient civilization, from the Maya to the Hindus, from the Greeks to the Hopi, speaks of a flood so vast it wiped the earth clean. They called it by different names: pralaya, deluge, the great purification. But the rhythm was the same, a cycle that began and ended in water. Imagine the world before the flood. Green valleys, towers of stone that reached the clouds, and cities lit by fires we no longer understand. Then, something shifted. The stars trembled, the ice began to melt, oceans rose like beasts awakening from sleep, and the people, those who built wonders we can't explain, vanished beneath the tide. Archaeologists call it myth. Yet beneath miles of ice and sand, something older than myth stirs. Carvings, maps, ruins that remember what we've forgotten. The Sumerians wrote that the gods measured time not in years, but in ages. The Egyptians spoke of the Tepe, the first time, when gods walked among men, and when disaster reset the world. What if those stories weren't legends, but warnings? What if the earth itself remembers and repeats? Because just as we have days and nights, the planet too has its own heartbeat. A cycle so long we barely feel it until it ends. Scientists whisper now of crustal displacement, of magnetic poles shifting, of cataclysms that visit every 12,000 to 13,000 years. The evidence lies in the ice cores of Greenland, in layers of ash from volcanoes that burned before memory. The ancients didn't have satellites, yet they carved their warnings into stone. Temples aligned with the stars, markers of time that spoke to the next civilization. When you see the heavens tremble, when fire meets water, remember us. And maybe that's what you're hearing tonight. Not just the hum of the earth, but the echo of a message left for us long ago. A message that says, the cycle will come again. But for now, breathe. Listen to the sound of the ocean in your mind. Let the waves remind you that destruction and renewal are the same rhythm, one giving birth to the other, forever. Deep beneath our feet, the earth is never still. What seems like solid ground is, in truth, a slow river of stone, drifting, breathing, dreaming in silence. Beneath the continents, molten tides rise and fall, like the pulse of a sleeping giant. And within that pulse lies a clock that does not tick with seconds or hours, but with millennia. Scientists call it axial precession, magnetic reversal, or solar cycle, but the ancients had a simpler word: destiny. They believed the earth was alive, and like all living beings, it ages, sleeps, and renews itself through pain. Every 12,000 to 13,000 years, the planet stirs. Its magnetic field falters, climates shatter, ice melts, and civilizations fall into silence. The Hopi elders said, "We have lived through 4 worlds, and now we stand in the 5th. The Maya carved calendars that ended, not to mark an apocalypse, but a reset, a breath between cycles. Even Plato, in his dialogues, spoke of the great deluge that visits mankind at regular intervals. He said that humanity forgets its past, not because of ignorance, but because the earth herself erases the slate clean. Imagine the Earth's core, a heart of iron rotating like a cosmic pendulum. Around it, the crust trembles with every reversal, shifting continents as if rearranging memories. The poles wander, the oceans surge. The stars above seem to shift too, not because they move, but because our world tilts ever so slightly, like a sleeper turning in a dream. Some say this is natural, Others whisper it's a system, a self-correcting rhythm to preserve balance. When corruption grows too deep, when pride blinds the species that walks its surface, the planet exhales, a cleansing breath of fire, water, and ash. That breath has come before, and it will come again. The ruins we uncover, temples buried in sand, cities entombed in ice, are like old scars on the skin of the world, reminders that time is not linear, but circular. Every rise is followed by a fall, every dawn by a dusk. Yet within this rhythm there is beauty, because even as the earth resets, life begins anew, sharper, wiser, more attuned. The flood that once erased also nourished. The fire that burned also forged. It is the paradox of creation, that to renew, something must first end. So as you drift into sleep, think of that heartbeat beneath you, the slow, patient rhythm of a planet that dreams in centuries. It hums softly beneath the oceans, beneath the mountains, beneath your very bed. You are not apart from it, you are part of its memory. The same atoms that once floated in the flood now flow within you. The cycle continues, quietly, endlessly, until the next awakening. Long after the flood waters retreated, the earth was quiet again. But silence doesn't mean emptiness. It means listening. And if you listen closely, you can still hear them, the voices of the ones who came before. They speak through stone, through ruins, through the geometry of forgotten temples aligned with constellations we barely remember. Beneath the sands of Egypt, the walls of temples whisper stories older than the Nile itself. Stories of a time when gods and men worked side by side, when knowledge flowed freely like the river. In the Andes, high above the clouds, the stones of Pumapunku fit so precisely that even a razor cannot slip between them. Who carved them? And why do their angles match those of temples half a world away? Across oceans, on the island of Japan, ancient Jomon pottery bears the same spirals found in the caves of Malta and the deserts of North Africa. Coincidence? Or fragments of a memory shared by a civilization that once spanned the globe, one that rose, fell, and left behind whispers instead of monuments. The more we uncover, the more it feels like we're remembering, not discovering. Plato said Atlantis fell in a single day and night of misfortune. Perhaps it wasn't the only one. Perhaps the Earth's cycle wiped clean more than one story, more than one age. Every ruin we find is like a heartbeat frozen in stone, a pulse of intelligence lost and found again. Even now, new evidence emerges beneath the ice of Antarctica. Formations that seem too symmetrical to be natural. Heat signatures hinting at something buried far below. Scientists call it geology. Dreamers call it memory. And maybe both are right. What if the ancients tried to warn us, not through words, but through pattern. Alignments in pyramids that mirror Orion's belt. Carvings that show two suns in the sky. Maps drawn before Antarctica was covered in ice. They didn't just build for beauty, they built for remembrance. Each monument, each myth, a fragment of a message. This has happened before. When you sleep tonight, you are lying on the bones of those forgotten worlds. Cities beneath your cities. Stories beneath your stories. Every mountain was once a temple. Every ocean once a garden. The earth buries, but it also preserves. Somewhere below your dreams, the cycle waits. Quiet, patient, inevitable. The ancients called it the turning. The Mayans called it the breath of time. The Egyptians called it the Eye of Ra closing and opening again. Whatever the name, it meant one truth. Nothing truly dies, it only changes form. So as the stars drift slowly above, remember this: the flood, the fire, the silence, they are not endings, they are renewals. And when the next dawn comes, somewhere far in the future, new hands will rise from the dust and begin again, wondering who came before and why they vanished. For most of its history, the Earth has been cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver, but the kind that buries continents. Picture this: it's 110,000 years ago. The night sky is sharp and endless, filled with stars untouched by pollution. Beneath it, North America lies under a wall of ice, 2 kilometers thick, stretching from the Arctic to New York. Glaciers grind mountains to powder, their weight so heavy that the land beneath them sinks. Every sunrise is pale blue, every breath a ghost in the air. In this frozen silence, the planet's heartbeat slows, and yet life finds a way. Scientists call this the last glacial maximum, part of a pattern that's been repeating for over 2.5 million years. We call it an ice age, but it's not a single event, it's a rhythm. The Earth breathes in ice, then exhales warmth. Each cycle lasts tens of thousands of years. The ice comes, the ice melts, and civilizations bloom in the brief, gentle warmth between. There have been 5 great ice ages known to science, from the Huronian, nearly 2.4 billion years ago, to the Quaternary, the one we still live in. During these vast stretches of time, the planet changes more than we can imagine. Oceans rise and fall by hundreds of meters. Deserts become seas, and forests sleep beneath glaciers. But perhaps the most mysterious thing is not the coming of ice, it's how it disappears. Why does the planet, so calm in its frozen stillness, suddenly warm, as if some unseen hand flips a cosmic switch? In the cores of ice drilled deep from Greenland and Antarctica, scientists found the answer written in bubbles of ancient air. Each layer of ice is a page of history, a record of temperature, dust, and breath. And what they discovered is hauntingly precise. Every 100,000 years, the planet warms abruptly, melting its frozen skin in just a few centuries. Imagine that, 2 kilometers of ice vanishing faster than a blink of geological time. It happened 18,000 years ago. The great ice sheets that covered North America and Europe melted, flooding the oceans by more than 120 meters. Coastlines vanished. Islands were born. Whole species disappeared. Mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, all gone within the same heartbeat of planetary time. The seas roared back into the continents, swallowing valleys and plains that had been dry for millennia. Ancient myths call it the Great Flood. Science calls it the end of the Pleistocene. But the story is the same, a sudden awakening after a long sleep. The strange thing is, we don't fully understand what caused it. Was it the tilt of the Earth? A surge in solar energy? A shift in the magnetic poles? Or something older, deeper? A pulse written into the bones of the planet itself. Whatever the cause, the pattern remains. Ice advances, melts, and returns again. A cold inhale, a warm exhale. A cycle that has sculpted every mountain, every ocean, and every civilization that would one day rise upon them. In the heart of Greenland, at a lonely research station, surrounded by endless white, a team of scientists once drilled through 3 kilometers of ice. Each turn of the drill brought up fragments of frozen time, air bubbles older than humanity itself. When they melted those samples and listened to the trapped gases whisper through their instruments, they were, in a sense, hearing the breath of ancient skies. What they discovered changed everything. The ice did not lie. It spoke of warmth and cold, of balance and chaos. It told a story written in the language of carbon and oxygen, of tiny fluctuations that shaped the fate of continents. The data revealed that Earth's temperature has never been stable. It dances. Every few tens of thousands of years, the planet swings between ice and warmth, a rhythm so perfect that it resembles a heartbeat. The Greenland ice cores showed that during the last glacial period, temperatures could shift by 10 degrees Celsius in less than a century. Imagine that. Within the lifespan of a single generation, winters could grow as fierce as the Arctic, then soften again like spring. In Antarctica, the story matched perfectly, as if both poles were breathing together. Scientists call this dance the Dansgaard Ojdr events, named after the men who first noticed it. But even they admitted the trigger remains a mystery. Some patterns point to the sun, whose radiation pulses in 11-year, 200-year, and 11,000-year cycles. Others to the tilt and wobble of the Earth, known as Milankovitch cycles. But there's something haunting about how precise the timing is. Like a pendulum, each warming follows another, roughly 12,000 years apart, as if the planet itself keeps time, and something resets it. Deep within those ice cores lie fingerprints of cosmic dust, tiny particles not from this Earth. Some believe they mark moments when comets brushed past, or when solar flares scorched the upper atmosphere. Others think it's geological, volcanoes erupting in symphony with shifting magnetic poles. Whatever the cause, the result is the same: chaos, then calm, then rebirth. The ice speaks not just of cold, but of memory. It records every breath of carbon dioxide, every trace of methane, every silent scream of a forest burning somewhere long ago. And as scientists compared those layers, Greenland, Antarctica, the Himalayas, a truth emerged. Climate is not random. It moves with purpose. When CO2 levels fall below 180 parts per million, ice grips the continents. When they rise above 280, glaciers retreat, seas swell, and warmth floods the world. And here's the strange part. We are now past 420. That number, etched quietly into their reports, is not just data, it's prophecy. Because every time the Earth reached a peak, something followed. Ice does not vanish without reason. It leaves because the planet exhales. The pulse comes full circle, and somewhere in that rhythm, civilizations rise, only to fade again, like breath on glass. When the ice melts, the world wakes up. Rivers roar where glaciers once crawled. Valleys bloom again, and sunlight touches land unseen for 100,000 years. 18,000 years ago, as the last great ice sheets began to collapse, the Earth entered a fever, a sudden warming that transformed everything. Within a few thousand years, sea levels rose more than 120 meters. Coastlines moved faster than tribes could migrate. Entire continents changed shape. The weight of melting ice lifted the crust, and earthquakes rippled through the rebounding earth. To the people who lived through it, it must have felt like the gods had returned, with thunder, fire, and flood. But to us, looking back through layers of data and dust, we see something else. A pattern too deliberate to ignore. Every time the ice retreats, humanity advances. Agriculture begins. Cities rise. Knowledge blooms like spring flowers after endless winter. Between the ice ages, civilizations ignite, and then, as the planet breathes back in, they fade once more. This is the pulse of the Earth: advance, retreat, rebirth. The strange part is how sudden it all happens. In the blink of geological time, the frozen silence gives way to sound, the crack of ice, the rush of rivers, the heartbeat of life returning. In Europe, the mammoth steppe became forests. In Asia, monsoons carved new rivers. In North America, the Great Lakes were born from melting glaciers, vast bowls filled with the tears of the ice. And beneath those waters, ancient landscapes still sleep. Entire valleys, plains, and forests trapped beneath the modern world. But there's something the ice taught us. Change does not wait for permission. It moves like a tide, unstoppable, patient and absolute. The ice records show how quickly climates can shift. Within a human lifetime, deserts can bloom and fertile lands can freeze. The same warmth that nurtures life also drowns it. The same floods that nourish the soil can erase entire nations. When we study those cores from Greenland and Antarctica, we're not just reading the past, we're reading our future. Because the numbers whisper of a cycle returning, temperatures rising faster than any natural curve, glaciers retreating not over millennia, but decades. The pulse quickens. We call it climate change, but perhaps it's simply the planet breathing again. What's different this time is us. For the first time in history, the species living between the ice ages can see the pattern and understand it. Yet still, we hesitate. The ancients carved their warnings into stone. We record ours in digital code. But the message is the same. The ice will come again, and it will go again. The question is whether we'll still be here to see the thaw. As the night deepens, imagine the great white silence returning, the breath of frost rolling across the continents, quiet but unstoppable. The earth remembers. The pulse continues. The next inhale may already have begun. 12,800 years ago, the world was waking up from an ice age. Glaciers were retreating, rivers swelling, forests spreading north again. The air was warmer, gentler. Life was returning. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. The temperature dropped by as much as 10 degrees Celsius in less than a century. Winter returned, not for a season, but for more than 1,000 years. Scientists call this the Younger Dryas, named after a tiny Arctic flower that only blooms in the cold. It was as if the planet had taken a deep breath of spring and then froze mid-inhale. No one knows exactly why. Something interrupted the natural rhythm of the earth, a rhythm that had been so steady for millennia. In the Greenland ice cores, the change is sharp and undeniable. Layers of dust and ash appear suddenly, marking the moment warmth collapsed into frost. Forests withered. Megafauna, the giant animals of the Ice Age, began to die out in waves. The woolly mammoths, the saber-toothed cats, the giant ground sloths, all vanished within a geological blink. In North America, bones of mammoths are found clustered together, as if they had fallen at the same time, buried beneath layers of black sediment. This layer, called the black mat, stretches across multiple continents. It's rich in carbon, soot, and microscopic spheres of melted glass. To many, it looks like the signature of something violent, something that burned the sky. Scientists have long debated what happened. Some say a massive meltwater pulse from the collapsing ice sheets flooded the North Atlantic, shutting down ocean currents and plunging the planet back into cold. Others whisper of fire, a comet or meteor breaking apart in the atmosphere, raining fragments over continents. The evidence is strange. Traces of iridium, the metal found in asteroids, appear in those same layers. Nanodiamonds, microscopic diamonds formed under immense pressure, glitter inside the carbon. And among the ashes, fragments of glass-like rock that could only have melted at thousands of degrees. It's as if the heavens themselves had fallen, igniting the forests and darkening the skies. The event left its mark not just on the earth, but on memory. Ancient legends from nearly every continent speak of fire raining from the sky, of floods that followed, of darkness that lingered for years. Graham Hancock and others call it the ancient apocalypse, the moment civilization nearly began, then nearly ended before history could begin to remember. We may never know if it was a comet, a volcanic chain, or a pulse from the sun itself. But something happened, something big enough to shatter the balance of the world. The Younger Dryas lasted about 1,300 years, a frozen pause between two ages of warmth. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ended. The ice melted again. The rivers swelled once more. And humanity, now scattered and changed, began to rebuild, carrying stories of the fire and the flood into the dawn of civilization. But there is one piece of evidence still left unexplained, one so strange it doesn't fit any theory, and that's where the mystery deepens.
Beneath the quiet fields of North America lies a thin, dark line, no thicker than a few inches, yet older than all human memory. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than soil, dark and lifeless. But under the microscope, it glitters. Tiny spheres of glass, fragments of metal melted into droplets. Nanodiamonds smaller than a grain of dust. Scientists call it the black layer, and they found it stretching from California to Pennsylvania, from Canada to Mexico, and even across the ocean in Syria, South America, and Europe. It's as if the entire planet had burned at once, leaving behind a scar, a thin ribbon of carbon that marks the moment the world changed. This layer is rich in soot, the kind created when forests burn on a planetary scale. And buried just beneath it lie the bones of mammoths, mastodons, and giant bison, species that vanished in what appears to be a single moment in time. For decades, this mystery lingered like a ghost beneath the ground. What could burn continents? What could erase animals so vast, so powerful, in an instant? In 2007, a group of researchers proposed an answer that shook the scientific world. Perhaps a comet, or fragments of one, struck the Earth around 12,800 years ago. The impact theory, first dismissed as fantasy, soon gained strange allies in the data. Across dozens of sites, scientists discovered microscopic evidence of extreme heat, Carbon spherules formed at over 2,000 degrees Celsius, melted silica and rare elements like iridium and platinum, the same markers left by the asteroid that ended the age of the dinosaurs. Yet unlike that cataclysm, this one left no crater. The theory suggests the comet exploded in mid-air, like a sky full of fire. The airburst would have been enough to ignite forests, melt ice, and send shockwaves across continents. Imagine the night sky, a sudden flash brighter than the sun, followed by a wind hotter than flame. The mammoths would have had no time to run. Within hours, entire herds perished. Within days, black rain fell across the land. The soot settled into the soil, sealing the moment forever. But the Younger Dryas mystery deepens here. Not every scientist agrees. Some argue the black layer came from natural wildfires, sparked by climate change rather than cosmic fire. Others say the carbon and glass could have come from volcanic eruptions. Yet the global synchronicity, the fact that it all happened at once, 12,800 years ago, remains hard to ignore. In the Greenland ice cores, a sudden spike in platinum and dust aligns perfectly with the time of the black layer. The temperatures drop again, the oceans slow, and winter returns. Even if the comet never touched the ground, it touched the balance of life itself. Cultures that existed then, small, nomadic, fragile, must have watched the sky with fear and awe. Perhaps this is where humanity's first myths of the Great Fire and Great Flood were born. The comet theory does not seek to destroy the story of science, but to remind us that science, too, has its mysteries. The ones buried not in the heavens, but in the thin black veins of the earth. The ground remembers what we forget, and every time we dig a little deeper, it whispers the same warning. The sky has fallen before, and it can fall again. But there's something even stranger buried within that black layer, something no one expected.
If you close your eyes tonight and listen carefully, you can almost hear it, the faint crackle of a world once burning. The wind carries the scent of ash that has drifted through 12,000 years of silence, the fire that ended one age and gave birth to another. Archaeologists have found its fingerprints everywhere, in melted stone, in soot-filled caves, in charred bones buried beneath the black layer. But the most haunting traces are not physical. They are in our stories, across continents, separated by oceans and millennia. Ancient peoples spoke of the same thing. Fire from the sky, floods that followed, a long night when the stars disappeared. The Hopi told of the day the sky fell. The Egyptians spoke of a time when Ra hid his face behind smoke. The Sumerians wrote that the gods sent fire to cleanse the earth. And far away, in the frozen north, the Norse remembered Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, when fire devoured the world before it was born anew. Could these be distant echoes of the same event? A collective memory carried through myth? Graham Hancock and others believe so. They suggest that before the Younger Dryas, there may have been an advanced civilization, not of spaceships or machines, but of knowledge, a culture that understood the rhythms of the earth, the stars, and time itself. Perhaps they saw the comet coming, Perhaps they warned us in stone. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the oldest known temple on Earth, was built around 11,600 years ago, just as the Younger Dryas ended. Its carvings show animals, stars, and symbols that may mark constellations and a great cataclysm. Coincidence or remembrance? We don't know. But what we do know is this: when the ice melted for the final time, humans emerged changed. They built cities. They looked to the sky, not with fear, but with longing, as if trying to remember something lost. The fire became legend, the flood became myth, but the pattern remained. Every legend of rebirth begins with destruction. Every dawn rises from a night of fire. The Younger Dryas may have been the last great trial before history began, a cosmic reset that forced humanity to start again, carrying fragments of the old world in its dreams. Beneath the Fertile Crescent, people learned to plant grain. Along the Nile, they learned to count the stars. Along the rivers of India and China, they learned to write. Every seed of civilization was sown in soil once burned black. And maybe that's what the earth intended, to test the species that would inherit it, to burn away ignorance and plant resilience. Still, one question lingers in the quiet between the data and the myth. Was it only chance or something larger guiding the rhythm of catastrophe and creation? Scientists still argue, but the earth remains silent. Only the wind seems to remember. Somewhere in Greenland, in a layer of ice still untouched, lies the last whisper of that forgotten fire, frozen in a bubble of air, waiting to be found. And when it is, perhaps we'll finally understand that the apocalypse was never the end.
Far above the clouds, where the air thins and silence begins, the earth drifts through space like a blue lantern, floating in endless night. From this distance, it seems eternal, unchanging, but it isn't. Every 1,000 years, every heartbeat of cosmic time, the planet moves in ways so subtle, so precise, that entire ice ages are born from them. The man who first truly understood this rhythm was Milankovitch, a Serbian mathematician who looked not to the ground for answers, but to the stars. In the early 20th century, while the world below was torn by wars, Milankovitch spent his life calculating the slow dance between Earth and Sun. He believed that the secret of our climate, the reason for the endless coming and going of ice, was written in the geometry of our orbit. It wasn't a new idea, but Milankovitch gave it a pulse, a pattern, a heartbeat. His work revealed that the Earth's journey through space is not a perfect circle, nor is its spin steady or upright. Instead, it wobbles, tilts, and stretches in 3 great rhythms that together control the flow of sunlight, and therefore the rhythm of life itself.
These are the Milankovitch cycles, the slow clock of the cosmos. The first is eccentricity, the shape of Earth's orbit around the Sun. Over about 100,000 years, the orbit shifts from nearly circular to slightly oval and back again. When it's more circular, the planet receives sunlight more evenly throughout the year. When it's oval, the difference between seasons grows. Summer's hotter, winter's colder. Ice sheets grow and melt in response to this subtle change, a cosmic breath that comes once every 100 millennia. The second is obliquity, or the tilt of Earth's axis. Today, the planet leans at about 23.5 degrees, giving us our seasons. But this tilt slowly changes, swinging between 22 and 24.5 degrees over 41,000 years. When the tilt is greater, summers are warmer, winters harsher. When it's smaller, the seasons soften and ice has a chance to spread. The third is precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, like a spinning top that tilts as it slows. This cycle lasts about 26,000 years, gradually shifting the timing of the seasons relative to Earth's position around the Sun. Together, these cycles act like gears in a vast celestial clock, turning slowly, endlessly. Milankovitch realized that when all three align in certain ways, they create conditions for ice ages or for their retreat. It's not the sun that changes, it's our angle to it. The Earth, in its quiet orbit, writes its own climate through motion. Imagine it now. A vast planet gliding through space, tilting ever so slightly like a breath. One small shift of angle and sunlight lingers a little longer at the poles. One small stretch in orbit and glaciers begin to stir. These are not changes we can see or feel in a lifetime. But over thousands of years, they sculpt the destiny of continents. The ice ages are not random, they are written in orbit. And Milankovitch, the quiet mind who listened to the heavens, was the first to read the music of that motion. He gave time a structure. He gave climate a rhythm. He gave the earth a heartbeat. Imagine, for a moment, the earth as a dancer, turning, swaying, circling her partner, the sun, in an endless waltz of light and gravity. The music is silent but precise. Every motion, every tilt, every step has meaning. This is the cosmic dance that Milutin Milankovitch devoted his life to decoding. A choreography written not in notes, but in numbers. To him, the orbit of Earth was not chaos, but harmony. And yet within that harmony lay the reason ice comes and goes. Picture the three great movements again: eccentricity, obliquity, and precession. Each one moves to a different rhythm. Each one alone changes the balance of sunlight. But when they align, when the timing of their cycles overlaps just right, their effects amplify, like waves colliding in a quiet sea. The planet warms, or
it freezes. And for millions of years, this slow celestial waltz has sculpted the rise and fall of ice ages. Milankovitch calculated how sunlight, or insolation, varies at different latitudes through time. He found that small changes in Earth's position could drastically alter how much sunlight the poles receive. A little less summer light, and snow fails to melt. Year after year, it piles up, white, cold, relentless. Soon, a glacier is born, then another, and another, until the northern continents wear crowns of ice once again. And yet the same cycles that bring the cold also bring its end. When the tilt increases, when the orbit stretches, sunlight pours into higher latitudes. The glaciers begin to retreat, and the world breathes warmth again. The pattern is simple, but profound. Sunlight writes history. Every civilization, every species owes its timeline to that delicate balance. For the first time, Milankovitch gave humanity a way to measure deep time, not by fossils, not by legends, but by the turning of the heavens. His equations showed that climate was not random chaos. It was rhythm, the slow pulse of the cosmos. And though his work was doubted for decades, ice cores later proved him right. The frozen layers of Greenland and Antarctica bear the same rhythm he described. The curves of temperature and carbon dioxide trace his cycles with uncanny precision. Every 100,000 years, a great freeze. Every 41,000, a shift in seasons. Every 26,000, a gentle turning of time itself. Over and over, the pattern repeats, like a lullaby for the planet. Scientists now call this the Milankovitch forcing, the mechanism by which orbital variations influence climate. It is not a force of destruction, but one of balance. Without it, there would be no rhythm, no rise, no fall, no renewal. The ice ages are not accidents, they are intervals in a grander song. And in that song, humanity has only just begun to listen. Think of it, our world spinning silently in the dark, a faint blue note in the music of the stars. With every wobble, tilt, and shift, the melody changes slightly, but the song continues. Sometimes it hums cold and distant. Sometimes it glows warm and bright. And through it all, the earth moves in perfect time. The cosmic dance never ends. It only slows enough for us to fall asleep beneath its rhythm, to dream of the stars that guide it, and the man who first heard their song. Every sunrise you've ever seen, every dawn that spills over mountains and cities is part of a rhythm that began long before life itself. It is the rhythm of light, a silent pattern that stretches across millions of years, written in the slow turning of the earth and the elegant geometry of its path through space. Milankovitch did not just discover cycles. He discovered that time itself has texture. It is not smooth, it breathes. Every 100,000 years, the Earth drifts slightly farther or closer to the Sun, tracing the long ellipse of its eccentricity. Every 41,000 years, it leans a little more or a little less, altering its obliquity. Every 26,000 years, it wobbles gently, changing the rhythm of precession. These 3 cycles are always moving, always intertwining, like the gears of a cosmic clock. They never stop, they never hurry, and together they decide how much sunlight the Earth receives, when ice advances and when it retreats. Scientists call this the orbital forcing of climate, a way of saying that our weather is written not just in the atmosphere, but in the stars. What makes Milankovitch's discovery beautiful is not just its precision, but its humility. It reminds us that our world, for all its noise and chaos, moves in perfect stillness through an endless sea of light. Nothing happens without cause. Every breeze, every storm, every drop of rain is part of a pattern stretching from the heavens to the soil beneath your feet. And though the timescales are vast, hundreds of centuries between each heartbeat, the rhythm is steady, constant, patient. Even now, as you listen, those gears are turning. The tilt of the Earth is slowly changing, less than a whisper each century. The wobble continues its cycle, unseen but unbroken. The orbit stretches and tightens, changing how sunlight touches the poles. You can't feel it, but it's there, the silent breath of a living planet. And if you could stand outside the solar system and watch, you'd see it all. The blue Earth leaning and spinning, tracing its slow pattern through space. You'd see ice ages bloom and fade like breaths on glass. You'd see civilizations rise in warmth, fall in cold, then rise again, all guided by the same invisible rhythm of light. Some scientists once thought the Milankovitch cycles explained everything. But now we know they are only part of the symphony. Volcanoes, ocean currents, greenhouse gases, they all join the orchestra, shaping how loud or soft each note is played. Yet Milankovitch's melody remains the baseline, the steady pulse beneath every movement. It tells us that the Earth is not a chaos of chance, but a dance of purpose. The same rhythm that carved glaciers also nurtured rivers. The same tilt that brought winters also made the first harvests possible. Even our breath, the air that fills your lungs right now, once drifted through ages of ice and warmth, carried by that cycle. Time and light are one. As you rest tonight, imagine yourself drifting above it all. The stars surround you. The earth turns below, glowing softly in blue and white. You can almost hear it, a faint hum beneath everything, the rhythm of light, repeating forever.
Somewhere beneath the calm surface of the sea, a story sleeps. The waves pass overhead, indifferent, while below, in silence and darkness, lie stones carved by hands long vanished. The ocean keeps secrets better than any tune. And maybe that is why so many of our oldest memories are written not in books, but in myths. Plato once told one of these stories. He spoke of Atlantis, a great island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, ruled by kings descended from gods, rich in wisdom and beauty, but undone by pride. In a single day and night of misfortune, he wrote, the island of Atlantis disappeared into the sea. For 2,000 years, scholars called it a fable, a parable about arrogance, not a record of fact. But what if it was both? What if Plato wasn't inventing a legend, but remembering a disaster? One passed down through generations from survivors of an older world. 12,000 years ago, the sea rose more than 100 meters as the last ice age ended. Entire coastlines vanished. Cities, if they existed, would have been swallowed whole. The timing is eerily close to the Younger Dryas, the cataclysm that froze the world and then melted it again. Could Atlantis have been a memory of that time? A civilization erased by water and flame? The thought lingers like a whisper under the waves. For centuries, explorers searched for its ruins. In the Azores, in the Caribbean, near Santorini, even under the ice of Antarctica. None found proof, yet the echoes persist. Deep beneath the waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, divers discovered what appears to be a stepped pyramid. Terraces and corridors cut from solid rock, descending into the blue. Some say it's a natural formation. Others swear it bears the hand of human design. Thousands of miles away, off the coast of India near the drowned city of Dwarka, archaeologists found ancient walls and streets under 40 feet of water. Pottery and carvings dated to 9,000 years ago, far older than most known civilizations. And near the Bahamas, a strange road made of rectangular stones, the Bimini Road, lies on the seabed, leading nowhere. Are these coincidences, or remnants of something we're not meant to remember? Each discovery adds a fragment to a picture too vast to see at once. The ocean hides more than 90% of the planet's archaeological record. If entire epochs could fit between layers of ice, how many civilizations might sleep beneath the waves? When Milankovitch calculated the rhythms of ice and warmth, he revealed that catastrophe is not random, it is rhythm. And if those rhythms shape the earth, perhaps they also shape civilization itself. The rise and fall of empires may be nothing more than echoes of planetary breath. Each age a brief note in an endless song of creation and collapse. Atlantis, then, may not be a place, but a memory, a symbol for every world that has come and gone before ours. And if the cycles of fire, ice, and water are real, then Atlantis was not the first to vanish, nor will we be the last.
On a hill in southeastern Turkey, buried beneath layers of soil and time, lies a place that should not exist. Its name is Göbekli Tepe, the Potbelly Hill. When archaeologists first uncovered it in the 1990s, They expected to find a simple Neolithic village, crude huts, stone tools, traces of hunting. Instead, they found towering pillars arranged in perfect circles, some over 6 meters tall, each weighing up to 20 tons. And upon those stones they found carvings: foxes, vultures, lions, snakes, animals frozen in a language older than writing itself. The site was carbon dated to about 11,600 years ago, a time when, according to everything we thought we knew, humans were still hunters and gatherers, wandering the wild. Yet here was architecture, deliberate, monumental, complex, a temple built before cities, before agriculture, before history. Göbekli Tepe is the oldest known religious site on Earth, but more than that, it is a riddle. Who built it, and why? The people who raised those stones had no metal tools, no wheels, no beasts of burden. Yet they shaped limestone pillars and transported them across hills with precision. Each circle seems to align with celestial patterns, stars, solstices, and constellations long forgotten. Some researchers believe the site may have been an observatory, a place where sky and earth met in sacred conversation. Others whisper that it was built to remember, a monument to something lost, something the builders feared might happen again. The date is striking: 11,600 years ago, the exact moment when the Younger Dryas ended, when the ice finally melted and the earth warmed once more. What if Göbekli Tepe wasn't the beginning of civilization, but its rebirth? What if those who built it were the survivors? People carrying the memory of a world drowned in water and fire, trying to preserve its wisdom in stone. It's easy to dismiss that thought until you look closer. Around the world, myths tell of a time when the sky burned, when the earth shook, when gods descended and taught humanity how to rebuild. Could those gods have simply been the remnants of a previous civilization? Teachers, astronomers, engineers who survived a global reset. The patterns on Göbekli Tepe's pillars seem to record celestial alignments that point to that cataclysm. Some scholars, including Graham Hancock, suggest that its carvings mark the date of a comet impact, the same one that triggered the Younger Dryas, a cosmic event memorialized not in text, but in symbol. Whether true or not, one thing is certain: Göbekli Tepe changed everything we thought we knew about human history. It showed that organized religion, architecture, and astronomical observation existed thousands of years before the first cities of Mesopotamia. It pushed the dawn of civilization further back, into the shadowed twilight between myth and history. And perhaps that's where truth often hides, not in the bright light of certainty, but in the dim glow of possibility. The stones of Göbekli Tepe still stand today, silent and unbroken. When wind passes through the pillars, it hums softly, as if the stones themselves are whispering. They remember something we have forgotten, something buried deeper than time.
If you were to descend beneath the waves, past the reach of sunlight, past the drifting fish and coral gardens, you might find them, the forgotten foundations of cities that once breathed. No banners, no bones, only stone. The ocean has polished them smooth, erasing all names, leaving only shapes. Roads that lead to nothing, pillars that rise from the sand like frozen prayers. In the waters off Yonaguni, divers move slowly between terraces and stairways cut into solid rock. Some say it's a natural formation, carved by currents and time, but others see the symmetry, the right angles, the steps too deliberate to be chance. When sunlight pierces the water just right, the monument glows like a temple dreaming beneath the sea. Half a world away, near Dwarka, India's legendary city of Krishna, archaeologists found stone walls, streets, and anchors lying 40 feet below the surface. Local fishermen had long spoken of lights beneath the waves, stories dismissed as legend, until sonar revealed ruins that matched their words. Samples taken from the seabed date back more than 9,000 years. If true, it means people were building harbors long before history says they should have known how. And then there is the Bimini Road, lying quiet beneath the turquoise shallows of the Bahamas. Rectangular stones stretch in a perfect line, like a path leading into the past. The myth of Atlantis had spoken of just such a place, a great city beyond the pillars with harbors and causeways. The coincidence is impossible to ignore. Yet perhaps the truth is not in any one location. Perhaps it is in the pattern itself, the persistence of memory that refuses to die. Again and again, across continents and millennia, humanity tells the same story. A golden age, a fall, a flood. The names change: Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, Dwarka, but the song remains. A civilization rises, masters the world, then vanishes beneath water, ash, or ice, and always the survivors look to the stars, as if searching for the place they came from. Some scientists dismiss these connections as coincidence. Others call them forbidden history, theories that walk the border between evidence and imagination. But maybe that's where truth lives, between what we can prove and what we can remember. The planet's surface has been rewritten countless times. Tectonic plates shift, seas rise, mountains erode. If a civilization existed 12,000 years ago, or 20, how much of it would survive? Even concrete and steel crumble in centuries. Only stone endures, and the stones we find, those beneath the sea and buried beneath deserts, may not be remnants of myth, but whispers of memory. If the cycle of catastrophe is real, the question lingers: how many civilizations have vanished before ours? We are taught that history began 6,000 years ago, with the Sumerians, with writing, with the first kings. But the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. That's 4 million millennia of forgotten time. Could we really be the first to rise so high? Or are we simply the latest verse in an ancient song, one the earth has sung many times before? The waves still move above the ruins, constant and calm. They erase and renew. Perhaps the ocean is not a grave, but a guardian, keeping safe the memories not yet ready to return. Someday, maybe, the sea will give them back. Until then, they remain where history ends and mystery begins, in the deep silence where light fades and only echoes remain.
High above the clouds, beyond the blue edge of the sky, a storm rages every second. Invisible to our eyes, it comes from the sun, streams of charged particles, bursts of radiation, waves of energy that sweep through space. And yet, here on Earth, we sleep in peace. The reason we can is simple, though we almost never think about it: the magnetic field. It is the Earth's invisible shield, a vast cocoon of magnetism that deflects solar wind and cosmic rays, protecting our atmosphere and every living thing beneath it. Without it, the sky would be stripped bare, the oceans boiled away, and the surface scorched by radiation. The field is born deep within the planet's heart, in the molten iron of the outer core. As this metal moves and swirls, it creates electric currents. Those currents generate magnetism, forming a self-sustaining loop known as the geodynamo. The process is ancient, older than life itself. For billions of years, it has pulsed quietly beneath our feet, keeping the compass of life aligned, literally. Birds, whales, turtles, even bacteria navigate by this invisible force. It is the heartbeat of the planet. But like all living systems, it changes. Every few 100,000 years, something extraordinary happens. The magnetic poles swap places. North becomes south, south becomes north. The process is called a geomagnetic reversal, and it is one of Earth's great rhythms, slow, mysterious, but entirely natural. The last full reversal happened about 780,000 years ago, during what scientists call the Brunnes-Matuyama event. Since then, the field has flipped countless times on smaller scales, briefly weakening and restabilizing. On average, reversals occur every 200,000 to 300,000 years. By that clock, we're long overdue. But this is not cause for fear, only wonder. For a reversal does not happen overnight. It takes thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of years. During that time, the magnetic field becomes weaker, more chaotic, with multiple north and south poles appearing across the globe like shifting lights. To ancient eyes, it might have looked as though the heavens themselves were moving. Today,
Satellites and observatories show that our magnetic field is indeed weakening, roughly 10% per century. The strongest sign of this lies over South America and the South Atlantic, a region scientists call the South Atlantic anomaly, where the field is unusually thin. It's not dangerous, but it is fascinating. Some satellites passing through this area experience glitches as cosmic radiation slips closer to Earth. It is a reminder that our planet's shield is alive, dynamic, not fixed. But it also reminds us how resilient it is. Through every reversal, every fluctuation, Earth has endured. Life has survived. From the first single-celled organisms to us, every creature that ever looked at the stars has done so beneath this shifting veil of magnetism. The field may change, but the world remains. When you hold a compass, its needle trembles toward a magnetic north that isn't even fixed. It drifts slowly, miles each year, a quiet sign that the dance continues. The earth hums beneath us, molten iron flowing like blood, and through it all, the invisible shield keeps spinning, unseen, but always there.
Imagine holding a compass one morning and watching its needle begin to drift, first a few degrees, then dozens. North no longer points north. Over decades, the direction of the field shifts, uncertain, like a breath held too long. This is how a magnetic reversal begins, not with chaos, not with fire, but with silence. Deep beneath the crust, 3,000 kilometers down, molten iron flows in vast currents. Its movement creates the Earth's magnetic field. But sometimes those flows change. Patterns of convection twist and reorganize, and the magnetic lines that once formed an elegant dipole, north and south, begin to tangle. Magnetic eddies appear, small whirlpools of reversed polarity, scattered like islands within a sea of magnetism. Slowly they grow, merge, and push against the old order. Then, over thousands of years, the planet's field unravels and rebuilds itself in reverse. It's not a sudden flip, more like a long inhale, a pause, and an exhale. During this time, compasses would point in strange directions. Auroras might appear closer to the equator. The sky could shimmer with colors unseen in millennia. The field weakens to as little as 10% of its strength, exposing Earth to slightly more cosmic radiation. Not enough to destroy, but enough to leave traces in rocks, ice, and even DNA. Scientists studying volcanic lava have found that when molten rock cools, the tiny iron crystals inside align with the magnetic field of that moment, a natural tape recorder of polarity. Layer by layer, these rocks reveal the story. The field has flipped hundreds of times before. In some periods, it reversed every few 100,000 years. In others, it remained stable for millions. There is no strict clock, only a rhythm. The last full reversal, the Bruns Matayama, took about 5,000 years to complete. For the planet, that's the blink of an eye. For us, it's eternity.
During the transition, life continued. Ice ages came and went. Early humans walked the Earth. Nothing catastrophic occurred. Magnetic reversals are dramatic only on paper. In nature, they are gentle shifts in an ancient tide. Still, there are questions, mysteries buried in that slow motion. What causes the field to lose stability? Some theories point to changes in heat flow from the inner core. Others suggest external factors. Large impacts, solar variations might trigger internal turbulence. Whatever the cause, the process has never wiped out life. Even as the field weakens, the atmosphere remains our shield. It absorbs and deflects most radiation, keeping the surface safe. The worst we might expect, if it began today, would be disturbances in satellites, power grids, and navigation. A storm of signals, not fire. The poles themselves would wander, perhaps splitting into multiple norths and souths, but life on Earth would hardly notice. Migrating animals might adapt. Humans, with our machines and maps, would adjust. The Earth has seen this countless times and carried on. Even now, the signs of a slow drift are visible. The North Magnetic Pole is moving, racing across the Arctic from Canada toward Siberia at nearly 50 kilometers per year. It is a reminder that the dance is still underway. But the field won't collapse tomorrow, nor next century. It is not a switch, it is a symphony. The iron heart of the planet turns, hums, shifts, and when it decides to rewrite its pattern, it does so with grace, over ages, not moments. So when we say the Earth's poles are reversing, it's not a threat, it's a lullaby in motion, the steady breath of a living world remembering its own rhythm. There will come a time, maybe 1,000 years from now, maybe 10, when the compass will hesitate. It won't spin wildly, nor point true. It will simply pause, as if taking a breath. North and south will no longer be where we expect. The invisible map that has guided us for centuries will begin to rewrite itself. But the world will not end. The oceans will not rise. The sky will not fall. The change will happen slowly, like dawn creeping across the horizon. So gradual that only satellites and scientists will notice at first. This is what a magnetic reversal feels like to a planet. Not panic, but patience. Not destruction, but transition. The Earth, as always, will take its time. As the field weakens, we might see more auroras, curtains of green and violet light drifting across skies far from the poles. In the deep night over Africa or Australia, the heavens could shimmer like living silk. These displays won't be omens, only reminders that we live inside a living system, one that moves, breathes, and dreams. Technology, of course, would have to adapt. Satellites could be reinforced, navigation recalibrated, and power grids shielded from radiation bursts. But humanity is clever, far more adaptable than we think. We once crossed oceans guided by stars. We can certainly adjust to a shifting magnetic field. Nature will adjust too.
Birds may circle in confusion for a generation or two, then learn anew. Whales might alter their routes slightly. Life finds its rhythm again, as it always has. For the magnetic field has flipped hundreds of times, and through it all, life persisted, unbroken. The Earth doesn't fear its reversals, only we do. And yet, the reversal is not a threat, it's a reminder. It tells us that even the most constant things, north and south, light and dark, are part of a greater motion. Nothing is fixed forever. The planet itself teaches impermanence. Some scientists say the next reversal has already begun. The field's weakening, the drift of magnetic north. These may be the first notes of a long symphony. But the melody is gentle, and the tempo is glacial. It will unfold over millennia, not moments. Our descendants may never even notice its completion. For them, north will simply be somewhere new, and they'll navigate by it just the same. As you listen now, the Earth's core turns slowly, molten and bright, humming like the low note of a song too deep to hear. That hum has been with us since the planet's birth. It has watched continents drift, ice come and go, civilizations rise and fade. It is the voice of time itself, calm, endless, magnetic. And if you ever find yourself lost, remember this: even when the compass sleeps, the Earth still knows the way.
If you were to draw a single line through the history of our planet, a line showing warmth and cold, rise and fall, it would look like a heartbeat. That, in essence, is what scientists at NASA and NOAA have done. From satellite readings, ocean cores, and ancient ice, they have mapped the rhythm of Earth's climate, a pulse that stretches back 800,000 years. Each beat tells a story: glacial ice advancing, then retreating, temperatures climbing, then falling. The pattern is not random. It is elegant, cyclical, alive. According to NASA's Earth Observatory, ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica contain tiny bubbles of air, miniature time capsules that trap the atmosphere of ages past. Inside those bubbles, the ratio of gases, such as carbon dioxide and methane, shifts like musical notes. Higher CO2 levels correspond to warmer ages. Lower levels mark ice ages. Over hundreds of millennia, this melody repeats, a steady oscillation every 100,000 years. Ice, melt, renewal. NOAA scientists visualize this in a long blue and red curve, where temperature swings rise like waves. Around 110,000 years ago, the last major ice age began. By 18,000 years ago, it reached its peak. Ice sheets covered most of North America and Northern Europe, 2 kilometers thick, their weight bending the Earth's crust. Then, as if following a hidden signal, the ice retreated. The Holocene, our current warm period, began. Since then, the line of the graph flattened, but it never stopped breathing. Even within these 11,000 years of calm, the planet shivers in miniature rhythms. The medieval warm period, the Little Ice Age, the subtle heartbeat of centuries. Recent data from NASA's satellites shows a new kind of pulse, faster, more intense. The Greenland ice sheet is losing roughly 270 billion tons of ice per year, contributing to sea level rise. In Antarctica, massive shelves the size of countries are calving into the sea. Ocean sediment cores, dark, layered cylinders of mud collected from the seafloor, confirm the pattern. Each layer holds traces of ancient plankton and volcanic dust, encoding the chemistry of the ocean at that time. These sediments reveal that our current rate of warming is far faster than any natural cycle in at least the last 100,000 years. And yet, when scientists present this data, they do so not with panic, but precision. The Earth has always changed, slowly, rhythmically. What makes our era unique is not that change is happening, but how quickly. The pattern still exists, only the tempo has shifted. Some researchers at NOAA call it an accelerated heartbeat. In a 2023 publication from Nature Journal, climatologists described these shifts as approaching tipping points, thresholds where small changes trigger vast transformations. Like a heartbeat skipping a beat, the system can restabilize or fall into a new rhythm entirely. For now, the line still pulses. The planet still breathes. And as we watch that slow curve on NASA's chart, peaks of warmth, valleys of cold, we are reminded of something simple and profound. The Earth is alive. It has memory. It has rhythm.
If the Earth has a heartbeat, then the sun must have a song. Every 11 years, that song rises and falls, a steady rhythm of light and shadow, heat and calm. Scientists call it the solar cycle, the waxing and waning of solar activity marked by sunspots, flares, and magnetic storms. Through satellites like SOHO and the Parker Solar Probe, NASA has watched this cycle for decades, measuring the pulses of radiation and solar wind that flow from our star. At the height of the cycle, the sun's surface bristles with energy. Dark sunspots bloom across its golden skin, and eruptions of plasma arc into space, reaching hundreds of thousands of kilometers high. During these peaks, Earth's magnetic field shivers slightly, auroras shimmer brighter, and satellite operators keep a close eye on their instruments. Then the music softens, the sunspots fade, the star rests. The pattern repeats, 11 years, almost perfectly. It's a quiet symphony of fire. But every few centuries, something unusual happens. The rhythm falters. The sun's energy dips lower than usual, its magnetic breath growing faint. This rare state is known as a grand solar minimum. The most famous one, the Maunder minimum, lasted from 1645 to 1715, a period when the sun went strangely silent. Historical records and tree ring data show that during those decades, global temperatures cooled slightly. In Europe,
Rivers like the Thames froze solid. Painters of the era captured winter fairs on ice, children skating where ships once sailed. Some call it coincidence, others correlation. The sun and earth, after all, dance together in a delicate balance. When the sun's energy weakens, subtle shifts ripple through the atmosphere. Jet streams bend, ocean currents drift, cloud patterns change. The effect is not immediate, but it is real. According to NOAA's solar observatories, we are now entering solar cycle 25, expected to peak around 2025-2026. Activity has been moderate, but some researchers speculate about another possible solar lull in the coming centuries, though nothing as deep as the Maunder minimum. Still, the data reminds us, the sun is not constant. It breathes. It has moods. It has seasons of silence and storms. In 2023, a study in Nature Geoscience noted that long-term solar patterns, combined with volcanic and orbital cycles, align closely with many of the cooling and warming events seen in ice core records. The sun, they wrote, may not drive climate alone, but it keeps time for the orchestra. That metaphor feels true. Climate is not a single instrument, it's a symphony. The sun is the conductor, earth the cello, oceans the drums, and humanity, perhaps, a small flute playing louder than it should. From the top of the atmosphere, satellites record faint oscillations in solar energy. 1.361 kilowatts per square meter at peak, 1.358 at trough, a difference of less than 0.2%, yet enough to change cloud cover, rainfall, even patterns of wind. Such small variations, multiplied over centuries, shape the face of our world. The auroras that ripple over polar skies are not just beauty, they are the visual poetry of this cosmic rhythm. Every color is a note, every wave a verse. So when you look at the sky and see the sun dipping low in evening light, know this: you're watching a symphony written in plasma and magnetism, one that has been playing for billions of years. The solar cycle is not a warning. It's a reminder that even the stars have their seasons.
If you could hold the history of the Earth in your hands, it would not be a book. It would be a cylinder of mud, taken from the bottom of the sea. Each layer of that mud is a page written in dust, ash, and plankton. Scientists call them ocean sediment cores, and they are among the most delicate archives ever kept. When researchers extract one, a long tube, sometimes 12 meters deep, they are in essence touching time. Each centimeter represents hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. Within it lie tiny shells made by ancient microorganisms, fragments of volcanic glass, specks of cosmic dust. Together, they record the slow heartbeat of Earth. Using isotopic analysis, Scientists measure oxygen ratios in those shells, revealing the temperature of the water in which they once lived. From these readings, an astonishing pattern emerges, waves of warmth and cold repeating across eons. They match perfectly with the data from ice cores in Greenland and Antarctica, showing that the planet's climate dances in harmony across hemispheres. But something curious appears near the surface. The most recent few centuries, the rhythm begins to speed up. Layers grow thinner, signals sharper. Ocean acidity rises, and traces of industrial soot appear. The calm, cyclical breathing of the planet takes on a new tone, faster, more erratic, like a drum struck too quickly. This is the Anthropocene, the age when humans became part of the record. According to a 2023 analysis published in Nature Climate Change, at least 4 tipping elements in the Earth's system are showing signs of instability. The Greenland ice sheet, the West Antarctic ice sheet, the Atlantic Ocean circulation, and the Amazon rainforest. A tipping point is not a line drawn on a map. It is a whisper, a moment when balance becomes motion. Once crossed, feedback loops can accelerate change. For example, as Greenland melts, it releases fresh water into the ocean, slowing the Atlantic currents that regulate global temperatures. That cooling, paradoxically, can trigger further melting elsewhere. It's a dance of cause and consequence. Yet even in these findings, scientists speak not of doom, but of thresholds. The planet has crossed thresholds before: volcanic winters, comet impacts, ice ages, and still found new equilibrium. The data tells us the same story in different forms. The Earth is resilient, but never static. NASA's latest satellite series, like ICESat-2 and GRACE-FO, watch this change from above. They measure gravitational shifts as ice melts and water moves, detecting even a millimeter of sea level rise. When these readings are plotted over time, the curve is not flat. It rises gently, like a breath taken in. To the untrained eye, it might look concerning, but to the scientist who listens carefully, it's simply another rhythm. A faster one, yes, but still a rhythm. The same curve appears in tree rings, coral skeletons, and stalagmites, all telling the same quiet truth that climate is not a straight line, but a song, and every song changes tempo. A researcher from NOAA once described it perfectly. Earth doesn't speak in disasters, it speaks in data. When we listen, truly listen, we hear not panic, but pattern, not chaos, but connection. The sediment, the ice, the stars, even the hum of machines in orbit, all instruments in the same orchestra. We are not separate from it. We are inside the melody. So tonight, as you picture those layers of stone and ice lying silent beneath oceans and glaciers, remember they are not relics of the past. They are memories, still alive, still whispering. And perhaps the most important question is not whether the cycle will continue, but what part we choose to play in its next verse.
If the history of Earth were a clock, its hands would sweep not in seconds or minutes, but in millennia. Each tick is an age, each talk a cycle. And right now, we live between them. Scientists call our time an interglacial period, a rare pause between ice ages. a brief warmth in an otherwise frozen symphony. The data from ice cores, sediments, and orbital patterns all tell the same story. Earth breathes in long, slow rhythms. Ice advances, ice retreats. Oceans rise, then fall. Continents tilt slightly on their axis as the planet's orbit shifts ever so gently. These movements are predictable in broad strokes, but not in detail. When will the next great cycle come? No one truly knows. Models suggest possibilities. Some calculations point to another ice age in 50,000 years, delayed by the subtle influence of carbon in our atmosphere. Others suggest a smaller cooling phase might begin in just 1,000 years. Between those numbers lies uncertainty, and that uncertainty is the very nature of our world. The Earth is not a machine that ticks with perfect precision. It's more like a heartbeat, sometimes steady, sometimes irregular, always alive. According to NASA's paleoclimate models, our interglacial began roughly 11,700 years ago, at the end of the Younger Dryas. That makes our current warm age young by geological standards, barely a breath in Earth's long exhale. In most of the last 800,000 years, the planet spent about 90% of its time locked in ice, with only brief interludes of warmth lasting 10 to 15 millennia. Statistically, we are living in one of those interludes. A spring between winters, a fragile balance between glacial silence and green abundance. But this isn't a reason to fear, it's a reason to wonder. Because this moment, this short temperate chapter, is what made civilization possible. It allowed rivers to flow gently, seasons to stabilize, and humanity to plant its roots. The great walls, the temples, the stories we tell, all born within this window of grace. And though the data shows the cycle will one day turn again, it does not demand anxiety. It invites reflection. The Earth has lived through dozens of such changes, from the fiery youth of its creation to the frozen plains of the Pleistocene. Continents drifted, species rose and fell, oceans moved as if in a slow dance, and through it all the world kept its rhythm. A report from NOAA once described it beautifully. The climate system is not fragile, it is dynamic. It seeks balance, not stillness. That line lingers because it reminds us that balance and change are not opposites, they are partners. Every glacier that melts, every forest that regrows, every breath of wind reshapes the world a little, nudging it toward equilibrium once more. So when will the next great shift come? Perhaps in 1,000 years, perhaps in 50,000, or perhaps in a way we can't yet imagine. The truth is, it will come when it must, and that's all right, because we were never meant to stop the cycle. We were meant to live within it, to learn from its rhythm, to build our stories between its tides. The Earth has endured for 4.5 billion years. It has survived impacts, extinctions, fire, and frost. It carries those memories not as scars, but as songs. And we, brief travelers under its sky are lucky enough to hear them for a while. If history is a mirror, then what it reflects is not destruction, but resilience. Every great change the earth has known, every flood, every freeze, every flare of fire has also been a beginning. Civilizations rose and fell upon these rhythms, but life continued, and so did memory. The people who survived were not always the strongest, nor the most powerful. They were the ones who adapted. From the ruins of ancient worlds, we learn that survival is not about resistance, it is about listening. In the myths of old, stories of floods and fire were not told to frighten, but to remember. They were warnings wrapped in wisdom, reminders that nature does not end, it renews. When archaeologists uncovered the temples of Göbekli Tepe or the submerged stones of Dwarka, they also uncovered a truth. Knowledge endures when it is shared. Civilizations fade, but the lessons they write, in clay, in stone, in song, bridge the gap between ages. In every ancient script, every petroglyph, there is a silent voice saying, "Remember what we learned." And perhaps that is the essence of progress, not to control the earth, but to understand it, to pass on what we've discovered before the tide turns again. In our own time, this lesson still holds. Science, in its purest form, is not a conquest of nature, but a conversation with it. Each satellite orbiting the Earth is a question asked, each experiment a whisper of curiosity. We measure not to dominate, but to comprehend. For as we face the uncertainties of our own era, melting ice, rising seas, shifting skies, knowledge remains the compass. The ancients built monuments aligned with the stars because they sought to understand the heavens. Today, our observatories do the same. Different tools, same wonder. The continuity is humbling. What we call data is only the modern word for memory. In the libraries of Babylon, monks recorded eclipses and rainfall. On Polynesian islands, navigators memorized the movement of swells and birds. Each generation, in its own way, has tried to map the pulse of the world. And when chaos came, whether through storm or drought, it was understanding that made survival possible. History shows a pattern. Those who listen to the earth endure. Those who ignore it vanish. The fall of the Maya, the drying of the Sahara, the silence of once green valleys, each a reminder that the climate speaks softly before it shouts. But within those silences lies hope. For the same intelligence that built the pyramids and charted the stars now builds telescopes that look beyond galaxies. The same hands that once carved stone tablets now type equations that predict the next eclipse.
We are the continuation of every story that came before, the living memory of Earth's long experiment with life. And so, as we face an uncertain future, the message from the past is clear. We cannot stop the cycle, but we can learn to dance with it. To adapt is not to surrender, it is to move in harmony. To remember is not to dwell, it is to prepare. Every civilization that recorded its lessons, whether in myth or mathematics, gave us a map, a way to navigate the tides of time. And so we write our own. Each discovery, each insight, each act of preservation, all are small lights guiding those who will come after us. Knowledge, after all, is the one fire that survives every winter.
To understand the earth is to accept that change is not the enemy, it is the artist. Every mountain once lay hidden beneath the sea. Every forest grew from the ashes of another. Even light, to reach our eyes, must travel through darkness. Change is the brushstroke of creation, painting over endings with beginnings. When scientists speak of cycles, ice and melt, bloom and decay, day and night, they are describing not destruction, but rhythm, the same rhythm that beats within your chest, that moves the tides, that guides the migration of birds across hemispheres. It is the quiet law that binds all living things. Nothing stays still, and that is why beauty exists. Think of winter. It looks like death, but it is only rest, a gathering of strength before the thaw. The trees appear bare, yet beneath the soil, their roots weave and breathe, preparing for spring. The earth, too, has its winters, the long ice ages when silence ruled. But each time, spring returned, glaciers retreated, rivers awoke, and life, like a gentle song, began again. That cycle is not cruel, it is generous. It gives us renewal, evolution, and meaning. If the world never changed, nothing new could ever grow. Even our species, born from adaptation, forged in hardship, is a child of change. When we look back across billions of years, we see not a story of loss, but of transformation. Continents drift like slow dancers. Oceans open and close like breaths. Species come and go, each leaving traces that build the next chapter. The trilobite became dust, and that dust became coral, and coral became limestone cliffs that now stand as cathedrals by the sea. The pattern is the same, written everywhere, in rock, in water, in stars. Astronomers have found that even galaxies live in cycles. Stars are born, burn bright, collapse, and scatter their ashes across the cosmos. Ashes that one day become new suns, new worlds, new chances.
The universe breathes the same way Earth does. It expands, contracts, renews. Nothing ends, it simply changes form. Perhaps that is what makes existence so beautiful. It never stops becoming. We often fear change because it reminds us of time. But time is not an adversary. It is a companion. It moves with us, reshaping everything we know, and in doing so, allows us to experience wonder again and again. Like waves on the shore, each moment is new, yet part of the same sea. Philosophers have called this the grace of impermanence. The Stoics called it amor fati, the love of fate, the acceptance that all things flow. The earth itself is the greatest Stoic teacher. It does not resist when continents break apart. It does not cling when forests burn. It transforms, always transforms. And in doing so, it reminds us that there is beauty in release, in allowing life to renew itself. To see the world as a living cycle is to see hope everywhere. Every sunrise is proof that endings are illusions. Every seed that breaks through soil carries the wisdom of every forest that came before. And so even if another ice age comes, even if oceans shift and skies darken, the world will not die. It will change. It will sleep, and then it will bloom again. That is its promise, whispered in every wind. All endings are beginnings wearing different names.
And now, as our journey nears its end, take a slow breath. Let it fall gently, like dust settling after a long day. For 12,000 years, humanity has lived between cycles, between ice and bloom, chaos and calm. We have watched the world shift, and yet, somehow, we are still here. The earth has turned through fire and frost, through silence and storm, but always, always it found its rhythm again. That rhythm, steady, patient, eternal, is what cradles you now. You are lying on a planet that has survived everything. The ground beneath you was once ocean, then mountain, then meadow. Every grain of sand, every drop of water, every breath you take, all are part of an ancient song that never stopped playing. Tonight, that song hums softly beneath the stars. You don't have to do anything. Just listen. Just rest. The cycles will continue with or without our worry. The glaciers will come and go. The forests will rise and fall. The seas will whisper their tides. And through it all, life, delicate, stubborn life, will go on. We are small, but we are part of something vast and kind. The same heartbeat that drives the earth drives you. The same calm that moves the ocean moves your breath. You are, in every sense, at home. So when your mind drifts to tomorrow, to what may come or what may end, remember this: the earth has seen it all before, and she endures, she heals, she begins again. The world has folded and unfolded countless times, and yet, dawn always comes. It always will. Even in the darkest night, the stars remain, quiet witnesses of all that was and all that will be. And so, as you close your eyes, let that thought settle like warm light upon your chest. You are safe in the arms of something ancient. You are part of the rhythm that will outlast every storm. Let go. Let the sound of your breath become the tide. Let the weight of time fade like mist. The earth is still turning, and with it, every fear softens. Somewhere, the first rays of morning are already touching another shore. Somewhere, a child is dreaming. A river is beginning. A flower is opening. And soon, it will be your turn to wake again, to see the light return. Until then, rest. The universe hums around you, vast and forgiving. Sleep well, traveler. The earth remembers you, even when you forget yourself. Sleep and know this truth. The cycles continue. The balance holds. And when morning comes, the sun will rise, just as it always has.